You are listening to Talking Star Wars.
Hello, Star Wars fans. I'm Connor.
And I'm Alex.
And we are talking Star Wars.
And this is episode 91, Hyperspace in Star Wars.
Yeah, Hyperspace, for those of you who need a reminder, is the very cool special effect where all the stars start to stream past inside of a cockpit of a starflyer or starship. And it allows for characters to travel at immense speeds to get to far out reaches of the galaxy.
Yeah, so in this episode we'll do a brief sketch of what hyperspace technology is, then talk about, in a couple aspects, one, how recently there's been a move to make some of hyperspace more mystic in some media, but then also how hyperspace and faster-than-light travel is used in the Star Wars universe as a plot device and how it works as a world-building aspect. It's one of the more important parts of any multi-planeted, galactic, sci-fi settings is how do they handle faster-than-light travel. In Star Wars, while not being very hard sci-fi at all, certainly plays with this to do interesting plot and character things.
Right, the comparison I would make would be the idea of warp speed in Star Trek, which is a numerical system that's actually based on the speed that the ships are flying at, whereas with hyperspace it is something that you need to calculate, but you jump into and punch into rather than having it relate to anything that is actually scientific, which both cases have their fans and different kind of styles.
Well, first, just an overview of how hyperspace works in Star Wars compared to other settings. So, in hyperspace is how starships and also the purrgil travel at faster than light speeds. It involves traveling, punching into another hyperspace dimension. It is canonically not just moving really, really fast through space. You can still hit things in hyperspace, but it works differently. You are in a different dimension. And then when your jump ends, you leave. There are ships that have hyperspace drives that gives them the ability to travel through hyperspace. We have hyperspace lanes that allow traffic through well-regulated areas where there's frequent travel and there's enough data to safely allow ships to go through hyperspace. And there's uncharted regions and unknown space where it's dangerous to travel through hyperspace for long distances. So that's basically it. There's presence of hyperspace drives, and use of it is pretty casually treated. Lots of ships have hyperspace drives, and you can go into hyperspace fairly easily with the right technology.
Yeah, did they just kind of a non sequitur? The Millennium Falcon and Star Destroyers have a hyperspace drive. X-Wings typically didn't, but in Return of the Jedi, did they give those ships the ability to jump?
No, X-Wings have always had hyperdrives.
Okay.
It's one of their advantages over TIE fighters is they do have hyperdrives.
Okay.
They can be used as independent force multipliers. They do not require a carrier to take them where they need to go. That's why Luke is able to travel independently to Dagobah after leaving Hoth.
That makes sense.
Now, did the ones that attacked the Death Star in A New Hope have hyperdrives? We don't know, because that happens all within the same system.
Yeah, it's not necessary to show that in that setting.
Yeah, we know that the Death Star has a hyperdrive, and we know that the Millennium Falcon has a hyperdrive.
That you don't really think about the Death Star flying, and it's it's terrifying, but also just this ball in space flying is a slightly comical compared to the more aerodynamic vessels.
I don't believe in Rogue One that they show the Death Star directly traveling through hyperspace. Even when it travels to Scarif, it's just there. It's noticed because it is apparated into being.
There's a new moon. It's no moon.
So how is hyperspace used as a storytelling element in Star Wars? Because yes, at its base, it's just this is how you travel between planets. But the way it's set up allows lots of interesting stories to happen. You have the hyperspace has been damaged and is leaking hyperfuel. You have that's from A Phantom Menace. You have we desperately need to jump to hyperspace to escape this planet. Empire Strikes Back. We need the hyperdrive fix on the Millennium Falcon to escape. Also Empire Strikes Back. There's the ability of access to travel is always, a good storytelling device in any setting, whatever it is. Like the port is blockaded, we need to escape. Can work in a piratical story. But having hyperspace coordinates and things like that allows for an interesting interaction between the story that's being told and the world that it's taking place in.
Right. In A New Hope, it's very much flavor, where we have a need, being this galaxy-spanning adventure, to travel from one far point to another. So we need to have some means in order to do that. Let's do this in a visually stunning way by having characters jump to hyperspace. It also allows for action to happen where the characters are ambushed by TIE fighters, and we need time to calculate where to make the jump, how to make the jump. We don't have the time to do that, therefore action must occur. It's a clever way in order to make for excitement. And Empire Strikes Back, half of that story is about what do you do when you can't jump into hyperspace. You have to make do, find a close system with some possibly seedy individuals, and therefore drama and excitement occur.
Yeah, hyperspace allows for the quick arrival and departure of forces and characters in a particular system, which is very useful for upping the stakes in any given situation. Oh, Admiral Thrawn's fleet has just arrived through hyperspace. Mm-hmm. Or the heroes need to escape into hyperspace. Darth Vader is pursuing them. There's an interdictor cruiser that can knock people out of hyperspace. The Nihil have hyperspace technology that lets them jump right above a city, or into a planetary atmosphere safely, which, as we saw from the sequel trilogy, is very dangerous to do.
Right. And speaking of the sequel trilogy, the use of it in The Last Jedi is something that I enjoy, and on the other hand, it's tricky to enjoy. It's the sacrificial attack that Admiral Holdo maneuvers in order to destroy the Supreme Leader Snoke's ship, jumping essentially into hyperspace inside of their ship, causing it to not explode, but become gravely, irrevocably damaged.
Yeah, using hyperspace as a weapon is not unknown in the Star Wars universe. There's I think a couple of EU super weapons that use hyperspace bombs or something like that. Probably the most direct example would be the emergencies that happened when the Nihil accidentally destroyed a cargo ship in hyperspace using their advanced hyperspace technology, and it caused across dozens of systems bits of the ship to emerge at relativistic speeds and smash into moons and planets. It was the first time everyone realized the Nihil were around. And then later on, it was threatened to be weaponized by the Nihil. So using hyperspace itself as a weapon was always possible. But yeah, the sequel trilogy starts doing some interesting things with hyperspace. It introduces the concept of hyperspace skipping, where you plot 4 or 5 jumps in a row at coordinates so that hopefully pursuing ships cannot trace each of your jumps. But of course, the First Order is able to track Poe Dameron when he does this.
Right. In The Last Jedi also, when they're able to track through hyperspace, having some sort of means, material, I don't know if it's something that we see, but it's something they talk about, being able to follow the resistance no matter where they make their jump. One thing that I was disappointed by is that I guess just in the placement of how it happens in the sequel trilogy, where we have this whole maneuver, that they just can't do it in The Rise of Skywalker. It was a 1 in a billion shot.
We actually do see the whole maneuver being used against one of the Last Order ships in The Rise of Skywalker in a background shot.
I would definitely miss that.
It's not called attention to. It's definitely done in post. So whether that's a thing that is now able to be done after Holdo broke the code, or after it was taboo for such a long time and she did it, or whether it's something that hyperspace engines and ship defenses are quickly configured to make the technique moot, I suppose we'll see if we ever get something set after The Rise of Skywalker.
I can definitely see them going down a dark path where they invent some kind of kamikaze pilot who's able to make this jump. Or, if you've been listening to this for 91 episodes, I brought up the idea of a droid resurgence, having droid vessels make hyperspace jumps into starcrafts would be,
or even into planets. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be devastating. So these have been some of the dramatic instances of how hyperspace has worked in Star Wars. Is there anything else from TV shows that stands out as far as dramatic uses before we delve into the history of and other uses?
Yeah, Star Wars Rebels introduces the interdictor cruiser, which can knock ships out of hyperspace. It's also brought up that in the Thrawn novels, where Admiral Thrawn is from Chiss space in the unknown regions, where there are no hyperspace lanes because great massive objects are moving in unpredictable patterns throughout. So you have to make much shorter hyperspace jumps. So he is able to, he admires the use of creating fake gravity shadows to knock ships out of hyperspace, having encountered similar things himself before. So, and again, ultimately, I mean, cool technology and all that, but it is like heroes have secret way of traveling, and villain invents a way that prevents them from traveling safely. Tension and plot ensue.
Exactly.
You have Ahsoka, where we learn that the purrgil can travel hyperspace at incredible distances, including even to another neighboring galaxy, Purrgil. The planet of Purrgil in another neighboring galaxy. One, the hyperspace traveling space whales are inherently cool.
Yes.
Two, this again adds another mystical element to hyperspace that we'll talk about later, where you must find the ancient artifact that tracked the purrgil so that you know the route to reach this other galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was trying to remember how Thrawn ends up reverse engineering the purrgil travel, but that's right, just means of finding that lane.
Yeah, they found an ancient Dathomiri Night Sister navigation sphere that recorded the migration patterns of the purrgil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an inherently visually interesting tool that allows for just, as we've said, drama, stakes, plot. Just like how every great Star Wars movie has a very large creature, some grand practical or digital effect, there should also be some interesting space content, and that will normally involve hyperspace.
And the usage from a world building perspective here is definitely, it makes the galaxy seem, if not smaller, easily traversable, or at least quickly traversable, where in other science fiction settings like Firefly or The Expanse, it takes somewhere between days and months to end up somewhere, depending on what's your suspension of disbelief and how fast we're actually going. But in Star Wars, you can jaunt across the galaxy through a hyperspace lane in a matter of hours or days, depending on the speed of your ship. So it means everywhere in the galaxy that's charted is accessible as long as you know the hyperspace coordinates. And of course, needing hyperspace coordinates is another cool way of using world building to inform that. You must find the map to the Lost Island. We see this in Skeleton Crew, where they have to find the hyperspace coordinates for some of the lost planets. We see this in Attack of the Clones, where the hyperspace coordinates for Kamino have been wiped away from the system. So the ability to travel anywhere in the galaxy, but then having so many planets, it makes Star Wars feel like a very large, lived-in, but not like vast and unknowable galaxy. It's a vast galaxy, but the people there are comfortable moving around it.
And there are still regions that are unmapped and untraversable by these means. So there's still that opportunity for, here's the expansiveness of the known galaxy, and there's still that potential that's out there that's frightening, which we're delving more into with Ahsoka, and I hope they delve into even more so. But as a means of just being like within the core story, it allows for invention, because there's always new planets, new spaces in the galaxy where they can be placed. That just opens up the world without so many limits.
Yeah, you can always jump to hyperspace and end up somewhere else. So,
Right.
Plus, it does look visually distinct and awesome.
So I know we covered a lot of the history just by talking about the individual representations of hyperspace travel, but kind of tying it all together. So we have the idea of these purrgil that scientists must have studied in order to figure out how to mechanically, artificially divine hyperspace travel. What other sort of core aspects from the expanded canon are there that we haven't touched on?
So we get some mythical elements of hyperspace travel, particularly in some of the more recent shows. In Rebels, it's revealed that Zeb, his staff, can double as an ancient wayfinding device through hyperspace. There's the Sith Wayfinder, used in Rise of Skywalker, that allows safe travel to the evil planet of Exegol. You have, in the High Republic, you have mentions of the Nihil, but then also the need for a Kobo Abyss Compass, which allows safe hyperspace travel through a deadly nebula. Then you have places like the nebula surrounding the spice mines of Kessel, where you can't jump to light speed until you've made your way through the clouds of dust, and only then can you jump to hyperspace. So
Clouds of Dust and also Space Leviathan?
Suma Verminoth, yes.
There we go, yes. There we go again with just the plot and excitement of how to maneuver things around hyperspace travel.
Yeah, and we also get some other mystical elements, so, long lost legends of homeworlds present in someone's staff is a very cool thing to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have things like there's a character in the High Republic, Vernestra Rowe, who also appeared as Master Vernestra in the Acolyte. She receives visions of the past, present, and future while in hyperspace, up to the point where she avoids traveling through hyperspace as much as possible because the dreams are unpleasant and distressing to her.
Yeah, that was a fun aspect of the show because I wouldn't know about her relationship with hyperspace unless, we've done this podcast and you've told me about it. And all the comments about, you don't like hyperspace? Are you afraid of it? It's like, no, it's just unsettling. Do you get motion sick? No, it's just distressing. It's like, I don't want to talk about it.
She's like, I have horrific visions of people dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ultimately, hyperspace in Star Wars is intended as a visual spectacle. It makes the universe feel accessible and lived in, where there's these hyperspace lanes and routes. It also gives sort of a frontier element, especially during the High Republic period, where you had Jedi Pathfinder teams that were helping to identify hyperspace lanes, and there were prospectors who kept hyperspace lanes secret and didn't share them with other people to know safe ways to travel between planets. So it's able to do a lot of world building and how do people travel and exist within this galaxy with many planets.
My last note to add is that my favorite hyperspace sequence is actually from Star Trek Into Darkness, because the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies kind of stole the look and feel of warp, or of hyperspace, and used it for their warp travel because the way the ships appear and disappear in space, and what it looks like when they're in warp looks like hyperspace now. But we have this immense, giant black Enterprise. I know it's not called the Enterprise, but it looks just like the Enterprise, just chasing down the regular Enterprise in hyperspace and knocking it out of warp hyperspace. You know what I mean. But it was visually interesting. It was much better suited for Star Wars than it was Star Trek. But otherwise, do you have any favorite hyperspace sequences from Star Wars or otherwise?
When the Millennium Falcon successfully jumps to hyperspace after Admiral Piet promises Vader it couldn't, and Admiral Piet just staring in terror at Vader. We know that he survives that encounter due to his competence otherwise, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a good bit of tension.
Yeah, and how it's used, Obi-Wan has to get back to his hyperspace docking ring when he's around Geonosis. He otherwise is trapped. It's a nice plot device to, if you externalize the hyperspace generator, then of course it gives the hero something else they have to defend, get back to, account for, another way they can be stranded.
Makes them vulnerable, right? So yeah, this has been a look into hyperspace.
Thank you for listening to episode 91 of Talking Star Wars. Join us next time for Force Powers.
Until then.
We'll see you sometime soon in a galaxy right here.